Hey everyone, my name is Jack, and do you ever have this strange feeling that there's something in the back of your head that you've forgotten almost entirely, but it still remains as an almost conscious thought? It teeters just on the edge of consciousness, almost nagging at you to remember it, but you just can't quite do it? Well, holy pardon my French. Holy guacamole, Batman. I figured out exactly what that strange feeling was after playing this next game. Memories of a 6 to 9-year-old little boy sitting in front of his dad's laptop, listening to the same music on repeat because it was as catchy as a very particular disease that I'm not going to be naming because I will most certainly be getting flagged by YouTube's automated bot. Wait, am I even important enough for that thing? I certainly hope not, or else my first child is going to be a boy. First name John, last name Connor. 12,000 years ago, when I was but a wee little lad, I had an obsession. 'Twas not trains, nor planes, nor jets, nor tanks, nor pirates, nor cowboys, nor Elmo, nor Disney, nor Nickelodeon. Well, I suppose Disney was more of a girl thing with all of the cheesy reality shows with the young preteen or teenage girls doing the typical teenage girl stuff and complaining about crushes or schoolwork with their best friends. That isn't the point, however. The point is, I had an obsession with Lego. That's correct. I was one of those kids. I brought minifigures and Lego versions of all those other dumb childhood obsessions to school to show off, and I was so cool because of it. At least I thought I was cool. I might have been. Who really knows at this point? I think I'm pretty cool myself. Never mind that, however, there is a reason I mention Lego. And it has to do with this video because those memories were once locked just in between my consciousness and subconsciousness. Found just on that line, the very thin line. Like that one picture of the two different oceans combining with different shades of blue. Maybe it was blue and green. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, this one right here. Those memories were like right here, or maybe right here perhaps. Regardless of where it really is, follow along with me as I traverse through those memories. Picture this, a child, me, sitting alone at night, or perhaps just after school, whichever you could personally connect with more, as I open up YouTube and start browsing for songs. What song? Oh, perhaps more than just one song. But which songs could they possibly be? Right. That's the fun part. Try this word on for size. Cryo-shell. What's cryo-shell? Alright, fair enough. So instead of that, how about Move Along by the All-American Rejects? Yeah, that's more my style, in modern terms at least. Can I just take a second or a minute or maybe even an hour to say just how wonderful cryo-shell is as a band within their association? No. Well, if you can't connect the dots with Lego and the two bands that I mentioned, then you're either too young or I am legally allowed to cry about your life growing up. Today we're going to be playing Bionicle, the original game by Electronic Arts, EA if you will. Back then they were arguably more respectable, but however you wish to call them is however you wish to call them. CryoShell has a lot of respect for me because they were so unapologetically open about how much they were associated with Bionicle. They were the Bionicle band, and I'm happy to say I still listen to them, or at least the songs that I listened to as a kid. You're probably thinking, okay boomer, shut your trap about some band I've never heard of and get to the video. Okay, fine. If you think I should, I will, after we watch this. Ooh, yeah, look at that intro. Please, bring back this Lego introduction, please. Please. I'm going to say it one more time for emphasis. Please. It's so satisfying. And you know what? Bring back Lego games. Bring way more Lego games back. Please, just keep making them. Right. Right, we'll carry on with the show. Bionicle, my favorite weird word that someone came up with and decided to use for a kid's toy that would make a strange resurgence in early 2021. Oh. Wow. Wait, after doing some research, there's going to be more Bionicle Legos. Oh, ew. But they're just minifigures. I mean, seriously, look at this. It's great that 20 years of Bionicle is here and all, but this is just disheartening. Wait, 20 years? Okay, no, that makes sense thinking about it. Nothing is more early 2000s than Bionicle, truth be told. However, this game came out in 2003, 2 years after Bionicle first came out. That just goes to show how massive Bionicle became. Though, like I said in my Harry Potter videos, there wasn't really anything unique about a video game being made around a popular franchise at this time. Ironically, EA is the developer of this game and the Harry Potter series. Damn, I really could have gone for the hat trick if Bratz was developed by EA. To be fair, that would explain a lot about the Bratz game if it was. The game starts out as we are God, looking down upon the Bionicle world of Bionicle and Lego pieces, probably. We zoom in, and it turns out that we're actually just in the main menu. Gotcha. From the main menu, we can choose our Toa. Unfortunately, because we've only just begun the game, we can choose... Okay, hold on. Let me explain something. Bionicle, at least in this game, works like this. We are the Toa, biomechanical beings that have elemental designations, or powers, or whatever. The first character we can choose from the available Toa members is Tahu, the Fire Toa. And now, the game begins again. We are no longer God, but instead we are watching a ceremony, or a play, or a ceremonial play. Our enemy, as it turns out, is Makuta, a great enemy to the Toa and the ultimate evil in the world of Bionicle. The play is then attacked by wasps and Joydicas. Wait, does the green Toa have an axe? Well, knowing now what I didn't know then, that'll come up a little bit later, but right now, just know that it isn't very accurate to the rest of the game. And we continue on. A quick spinning zoom and a very drastic change in scenery, and Volcano Time begins, where the wasps continue to blow shit up. Toa Tahu, or just Tahu, or Toa Red, or T-Red, or another Toa pun that I can't think of right now. Toa Tuli Lit. Yeah, that's a good one. Tahu's job is to collect orbs made of spiritual, come in and grab midget Bionicles on his quest to stop the Bow Rock. We learn how to jump by pressing the A button, believe it or not, and we move on to the next area. Here we learn how to shield by pressing the B button at the right time to absorb energy. Even after beating this game, I'm not sure what the energy even means. I think the reason I couldn't attack a numerous amount of times more than I thought I could was because I was always low on energy. It didn't really matter since I beat the game anyway, so whatever. If I time the attacks correctly, I can also perform a wombo combo. However, there are no happy feet here. It gives me a giant Scorpionicle to fight while I do this. As I eventually find out, doing combo attacks is just kind of really slow and really pointless, and it animation locks me where I shouldn't be animation locked. But hey, that's for future past me to deal with. As we fight a bunch of sky enemies in another area, I start to figure out that Bionicle 2003 for the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo GameCube is just Lego Dark Souls. I say that facetiously, of course, or maybe I don't, and I'm only saying that to cover my tracks and look like I'm funny. Either way, the combat is just a huge list of repetitive patterns, and I traverse through the volcano lickety-split. The biggest difference in patterns is, of course, that it isn't actually fun like Dark Souls and only your attacks have patterns. The next area, the most visually stunning area, if I can even possibly say that and not laugh at the words put together in the context of this ugly-ass game, requires me to continue on later into the level. Yet again, to get a Rahi. The Rahi will help us finish the level, but the scary Boroidicas unfortunately scare them all off. Sounds like the Rahi just need to grow some organic testicles and not be afraid of things they can punt like a soccer ball, or football if you're a paranormal entity. Football spelled F-U-T-B-O-L. Maybe F-O-O-T-B-A-L-L if you're across the pond. Regardless of the fact of normality, we have to find baby Bionicles so they can build a new Rahi, and frankly it doesn't take long. I mean, we do more parkour and we get to attack a giant skeleton that shoots purple lasers out of its stinger, but it doesn't take that long at all. What's even more frank is the stark realization that I'm getting serious flashbacks, or maybe flash forwards, to Old World Blues and the Robo-Scorpions. Man, Dr. Mobius continues to threaten my current hold on what sanity I have left, it seems. Did I mention that when these wasps that attack us constantly appear, they make the loudest buzzing noise in the universe? It's as if the wasp literally went up to your ear and started buzzing, like in real life. All it made me want to do was smack the air next to my ear, but I'm sure even you can see why that wasn't quite possible. For those who can't, the wasp was virtual and not near my ear at all. Bashing down some pillars onto the heads of scorpions wins us the day, well, the minute more so, and the Rahi are built. One Rahi is built, and it's the only friendly one we'll ever see for the rest of the game. Don't do what I did and run past it. Make sure it knows that it's loved and cared for and isn't going to burn in the ever-rising heat of the volcano. What is really next is a boss fight, or a boss's fight, because there's more than one mini-boss in this boss's fight. Does that make it a singular boss fight if multiple mini-bosses are put into one arena? I guess it'd be kind of a similar argument with the Abyss Watchers fight in Dark Souls 3, but they have health bars. So do health bars indicate that it's a boss fight? The point is, we fight shit, and it turns out, when we fight shit, it makes a horrible screeching noise. Why does it make such a horrifying screeching noise? It sounds like somebody was actually shot by a beam of energy to record the scream. Or maybe it's just a stock MP3 sound effect that could later be used in free horror games. Whatever the case, it's going to give me nightmares. There are 4 mini-bosses to this one boss's fight, and don't pay attention to the fact that I walk into a corpse and explode, having to restart the entire fight. That definitely didn't happen. After winning and grinning, we find a purple mask on the floor. According to my research, it is a Krana, which powered the Barak. So as it sounds, we straight up ripped their brain out of their head. Okay, that's pretty brutal for a Bionicle game. I'll give it props there. And the next level begins. Can you guess what the next level is? Anyone? Someone? Pause the video and write it in the comments below. No, wait, don't do that. I enjoy engagement, but I disenjoy when it's done in such a post-relevant way. You'll find out if you comment or not, so just make a comment about something random, like your second favorite blueberry muffin experience. Alright, well, did anyone guess a snowy mountain with Toa Kopaka? You did, because you saw the entirely white Toa on the character selection in the main menu? You've got a sharp eye. And if you didn't guess, then I'm glad you told me the story of your second favorite blueberry muffin experience. Thank you. Oh, bonus points to anyone who guessed snowboarding. And extra points if you skipped ahead by a few minutes, then came back and guessed that. If you did, you're going places. It may not be anywhere important, nor anywhere worth talking about, but it's still somewhere. We have to capture more Krana, and Kopaka is chasing a Captain Bospak, so we have to snowboard down a mountain after it, awkwardly might I add, and catch it. This sucked. The first part isn't really bad, it's just an enjoyable snowboarding adventure, casually dodging, rocks, trees, ice that keeps falling out from beneath us, scorpions, the typical snowy mountain experience. Then comes the actual fun, or whatever word is the exact opposite of fun. Time to chase a Borak. We have to smash into it with our shield up and then zap its ass back to the Stone Age, or non-biomechanical age. Whichever really makes the most sense. As it turns out, if we don't destroy the Borak before it reaches the bottom, the lives of all of the beautiful biomechanical children are burned alive and destroyed. It took me 4 tries, which is why I said this sucked previously. The first time I messed up, fair enough. I didn't know it wasn't an indefinite chase. Second time, well, that's just completely unlucky. Third time, maybe I'm just bad. Fourth time? Yeah, I knew I was a god at video games. You didn't need to tell me. Next up, we have to head further down the mountain to chase the Swarm Leader. More snowboarding, and now we move on to This Sucked 2 Electric Boogaloo. Pressing the up and down button on the D-pad controls our speed, and only on the 5th or 6th attempt did I realize that it is oriented in the direction the camera is facing. The whole time I was pressing the up button thinking it was going to speed me up, when in reality it was slowing me down pretty badly. Then after that I was just proving how bad at video games I am when I would die anyway. You give me the tools to succeed and I won't. Go fuck yourself. Oh, and we can't forget even more snowboarding and attacking the Swarm Leader with the same tactics as before. Of course, this was the easiest section because my gamer skills were showing. Then I yoinked the Krana and we are on to the next part. The next part is actually a cutscene with the Krana masks, only 2 of which I've collected. They give the Toa more power. I don't know what this was since I forgot it even happened while I was playing it, and I only just now saw it when I was writing the script, but apparently they decided to hire some serious plastic surgeons to fancy them up a bit. Well, now it's time for Toa Gali and her water park. This part isn't really that bad if I'm being completely, totally unsarcastically honest, which, by the way, isn't often. There isn't all that much to talk about. I traverse a tiki paradise, or nightmare if you really hate the tiki aesthetic, but if you do, just stop existing. As you haven't seen already, each Toa has a trick. Well, that trick is their element. Toa Gali is the first one to have a trick with her element itself. She has the element of water, so can you guess what trick she has? That's right, water breathing. Of course, that makes total complete sense. Too bad water breathing is just really boring as an ability. To be fair, she does live in a tiki island jungle wonderland full of water. I doubt she'd have very much use on a mountain covered in snow or knee deep in a volcano. After saving almost all of the midichlorians, it's high time to fight the Vortex mini-boss's fight. This is not very hurrah, because it's the same fight as Toa-Tahu's Volcano Arena mini-boss's fight, but it includes 2 more stress balls. It takes no time before I win, and I'm able to pick up the next Krana mask. Alright, now we're on to serious business. Desert Temple time with Toa Pohatu. Quickly sprinting down the mountain, I make my way to the ramp of doom. Everything falls apart, quite literally, and I fall hundreds of feet into the depths of the desert. And the only way out is to press R and explore the cavern layer. I'm just kind of hoping I don't ride full speed into a huge section of lava. Wait. The cavern layer doesn't spawn lava pools, so I should be safe. So we thoom, jiving as the speed of the minecart reaches the initial value of faster than light travel before I can even think. Of course, I crash quite a few times actually, but I keep trying to speed up to escape my problems with ease. It works, and I do have to say this part of the game is my favorite. It's not even that complex, I just have a thing for speed in video games. If I can't go fast, why the fuck would I want to play your game? It's that simple. And then we change our character to Toa Onua. It turns out that Toa Potato was completely pointless except to include him. You see, Toa Tomato has the power of speed. That's it. That's why we went so fast on the minecart. So the new dude, Toa Ohio, with the super duper strength, has to do what he does best and punch shit. Or fall through the earth to fight a boss. That works too. In this next part, I have to push statues onto the pedestals to open doors and do more parkour. There's not really all that much I can say about this part either because it's just that. Let me tell you a story while the gameplay continues on. This game only took me 2 hours to beat, so I'm going to use this footage and pad the runtime as much as I can. So anyway, this game reminds me of a simpler time. It wasn't as simple as I thought it would be looking back, but that isn't the point of this story. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I had the chance to kick it off in the big leagues, make some real serious friends in a huge friend group. I always had friends, sure, but a part of me wanted something more, something greater. I'm very grateful for the friends I have now, but ever since then I've been friends with every type of friend group in school, from the nerds to the popular kids to the band geeks to the drama kids. And back then I was invited over to a friend's house. We'll call him Gian, and he had a twin sister named Guema, but I didn't care about her, so she's completely irrelevant. Women are disgusting, yada yada yada, the whole gamer spiel. Growing up, I was only allowed to play games that were rated M after I could prove to my parents that I saw them as simply fiction and not to be reenacted in real life. Of course, I still played cowboys and outlaws in the style of Red Dead Redemption after I played it for the first time, but I'm not sure if that counts as me lying about that promise or not. Regardless, this was before I proved that to my parents, so as soon as I walked inside, Gian took me upstairs to his room so we could play on his Xbox the First. We sat down as my mom and his mom were talking at the front door when his mom yelled upstairs that I couldn't play rated M games, so we wouldn't be allowed to play any rated M games at all. I was bummed out, and I'm pretty sure that fella Gian didn't enjoy playing games with me as a result. Yikes. I was only bummed out because I was going to play Turok with him, the only real reason we were going to play games at all. I wanted to hunt dinosaurs as a badass dude with a gun. And you know what? As a result, I didn't play Turok for several more years. I also didn't stay friends with him, but not a big loss, I'm gonna be honest. What was the moral of that story? Right. Well, it was as simple as this. Never. So boss fight time. This time around, there's no snowboarding, no minecart surfing, or fighting rolling boulder bots. Instead, we push some rocks onto some vents and they break huge pipes that do something. After we destroy the pipes, we're done. The boss gets absolutely crushed by the machinery above him after all the pipes are disconnected. Let me tell you, it is so satisfying. It's not satisfying. It isn't really satisfying at all. It just feels weird playing this game. Afterwards, the cameraman teleports across the world to Hippie Land, land of the hippies, where Toa Marijuana speaks his brain-dumb lingo. This guy, Toa Lua, that's his real name by the way, has a really weird way of talking. And by weird, I mean he combines nouns and adjectives into one word to describe further what he's talking about. So maybe it isn't brain dumb, but maybe it's brain expand. Yeah. And then we're in. Toa Hawk rides along the branches to find his Mississippians so that he can teleport off to the next part of the level. Oh, right. This was very clearly an important addition to the game. Couldn't have gone without it, really. But while I'm talking about Toa Chameleon, I want to bring up that he has 2 daggers here instead of the axe he had in the beginning. Remember when I pointed that out? Just thought I'd bring that inconsistency up. He only had the axe in the first cutscene and then never again. And bada bing, bada boom, it's Guns N' Roses time. Toa Hawk, which is very funny to me considering it's a double pun, can fly. Oh yeah, he's the Toa of air, by the way. I don't know if that was obvious with his ability to fly. I have to soar through the skies to reach the jungle floor below, and that is where we get super upset at the game's mechanics and the game's lack of navigational capabilities. First, we have to do a bunch of jungle parkour where we double jump, then fly, then leap, then jump, then yada yada. You get the point. Then more parkour on falling mud cliffs that'll fall if you stand on them for too long. This isn't even the most annoying part because after all of this parkour, every last bit of it, believe me, there's a lot. It goes on for 3 entire sub-levels. We have to glide behind a bird, the great Gucko bird. Gucko? Something like that. And as soon as I find that out, I try to jump on its back and I die, exploding into a billion pieces and being raised to heaven by Toa Jesus himself. And it's time to be upset, my favorite part of the day. You know how some computer AI in older games would run then suddenly snap sideways as if their only goal in life was to give themselves the worst case of whiplash possible? The only other question I have is this. Do birds experience whiplash? I had to keep redoing this part simply because there was really no way of knowing which direction the bird would turn, and it would do it so suddenly that I'd fall out of its updraft and have to restart the whole thing all over again. After that, I have to do some hopping, some skipping, and some jumping down an angry river of evil marble pillars before finally reaching the boss. And this boss fight is just like that one game. I believe it's Don't Break the Ice or something, where you force the other player to mess up and break the ice, except you're both standing on the ice, and if you get backed into a corner where you can't leap to an adjacent square, you drown to death in the most horrendous way possible. Then I get the Chrono Mask. Haha, get wrecked. Back to Toa Tuha in his hyper-evolved state, a brand new biomechanical being, powerful and splendid. We have to surf along the lava. Well, actually it'd be magma because it hasn't reached the surface just yet. But regardless, we have to race the other bionicle thing, known as a Rockshi, to the bottom of the volcanic magma drift. This part is just that. It's a race. I have to dodge falling igneous rocks. Don't make me go into a science lecture. And beat the Rockshi into the middle of the earth, where the dinosaurs live. Well, not really. really, but we do go down pretty deep. Naturally, due to my overpowering gamer skill, I win with flying colors. And we get hit with a sick cutscene that seems to have been specially made for the game. So that's pretty dope. Then the little Matoran dude, which I learned a lot about the story elements of Bionicle through this game, because I know his name is Takua. This game introduced Takua into the lore of Bionicle, and he obtains the Mask of Light, the most powerful Toa mask. How do I know? Because it's the final one obtained, so it has to be powerful. What does it do? It glows. The game doesn't really describe that much about it, but it's very, very important, so pay attention, or something. After the little schmuck gets his face sucked into the mask, he becomes a god and decides it's time to take on the big baddie Makuta. Really, the cutscene plays out like it's a gag in a movie about a hero who thinks he's better than he actually is and gets completely destroyed, but it turns out this is actually the final boss, like no shit. We start by having to beat a bunch of Rahi, scorpions, frogs, wasps, the typical things you'd find in a horrifying nightmarescape. Purple guy slams his big ass feet, and you know what they say about big feet, onto the pedestals and literally makes the place collapse entirely. We fall into the void, or a bottomless pit even it seems, and now we have to move on to the next part of the boss fight. Here we have to jump onto 4 platforms, each one with a glow, before we can disable Shaquille O'Neal's shield and use our shield to block a ball of energy back at him. I will tell you that he is one of those stupid bosses that never learns, because we have to do the same exact thing 2 more times. My dumbass dies a couple of times because I'm bad at 3D platformers. Thankfully, I don't have to restart the entire battle, just from where we fell into the depths of definitely not hell itself. And that's it. There's an ending cutscene of the Mask of Light being put onto the big shadow guy's face, balancing light and dark, and that's it. Something about great spirits being awoken. Then it's the credits. That's really it. It took me a little over 2 hours to beat this game. It's funny because the brain-dead child version of me couldn't even get past the very first level. I just kept getting annoyed and stopped playing. Can you believe that? I was really dumb. Well, let's see what rating it gets then. Right. So the review for Bionicle's review. There's not much I can say about the game here in the review's introduction. The only memories I have are of me getting upset that I couldn't get past the first volcanic region of the game. I guess without further ado, let's get into the... Holy fuck! The gameplay sucks! It's the same thing over and over. The only exception being the minecart and Toa Minecraft and Toa Mary Jane sections. It's all the same buttons with barely any unique features to each section. For example, the first section, the volcano, has all of the buttons introduced to you. Well, almost all of them. B to shield, A to jump, yada yada yada. It's the typical 3D platformer experience. Mario 64 is really shaking in its boots with this one. 3D platforming itself is alright, like I said, it's pretty typical. If you played any of them before, then you've played this one for sure. Playing this game was like reliving a really bad memory of eating something you can never forget the taste of, like the taste of ants inside your Hershey's chocolate syrup that you got at Disneyland and left in a hot cupboard as a kid at your grandparents' house in Florida. By God, no chocolate milk has ever been crunchier or more full of proteins in my life. Combat is the exact same in all scenarios, except for a few select boss fights. The pushing statues boss fight and the final boss fight are the 2 that come to mind. Oh, and the snowboarding boss, that's just like 3 or 4 snowboarding sequences in a row. That wasn't really a boss fight though. The jungle boss was pretty neat. Probably my favorite, despite how easy it was compared to every other one. Oh, and easiness in this game is different from easiness in other games. All of the bosses are easy, but this game defines easiness how one would define margarine as being butter. Sure, you can't believe it's not butter, but it's also not butter. Does the boss require the typical game mechanics in order to function like a boss? Not easy. Does the boss introduce new mechanics that are different from the game mechanics? Easy as eating cake on a Sunday afternoon while watching Netflix to get over a recent relationship breakup by drowning your tears in chocolate frosting. So when it comes to the gameplay, I give it a big fat 0 out of 4. I cannot believe I had trouble with this as a kid. It genuinely blows my brains to smithereens. I was a stupid ass kid after all. Holy jeez. The music is astonishingly bad. I don't even mean just the music. All of the audio is bad. All of it. It fizzles, it cracks, it's hyper compressed so often that my ears would cry themselves to sleep at night as I listened to the echoing remnants of the game's audio. Luckily, this game lasted for about 2 hours, otherwise I might have had permanent hearing damage because of it. The music constantly loops, and that happens throughout the entire game. I'll have to show you some examples because it's just so horrendous, and you can hear when the MP3 stops playing and when it starts again because there's a bit of just blank space. The sound effects suck too. The voices are the best part of the game, genuinely, because they don't fizzle, pop, or crack as if the game is a ticking time bomb full of pop rocks and those poppers that you can stick into the end of Nerf darts and scare the soul out of someone. Every time you hit a Barak, there's an inhuman scream that pierces the eardrums. Just take a listen. I would say I have a bad feeling about it, but I know exactly what that scream is. It's the sound of Maxis being axed and torn to smithereens so that EA can absolutely demolish The Sims in approximately 10 years with the release of The Sims 4. Also, the fucking wasps. I don't play games to have wasps buzz my ears at supersonic boom levels of volume. It hurts so much. There really isn't a lot I can say about the music. Specifically, it's all so repetitive in the worst possible way I can manage to mean it, and the vast majority of it sounds like the same audio file played in every environment. Drums, 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 it's all drums! Every last bit of it, it's nothing but drums! So I give it a 0 out of 4. It's all bad with no redemption whatsoever. The story of Bionicle is a long and drawn-out dive into a very dark storyline. It has lore that extends to the deepest caverns of Earth and to the stars that sit farthest away from our tiny little planet. That's a lot of hyperbole, but I do have a fun fact for you. This game actually introduced a lot of elements to the canon lore of Bionicle, such as the elemental masks and their Toa guardians. The characters themselves were already there, they existed, but none of them controlled or had elemental masks. That was unique to this game, and the creators of Bionicle just said screw it and made it canon. Bravo, Electronic Arts, you did something good after all. However, that isn't what this section is really for. What it's for is much deeper and more important. The actual factual canonical lore in the game. I'm sure everyone is just salivating to hear the story and what I think of it. The game's story drinks Starbucks and listens to Frank Ocean. That is to say, it likes long walks on the beach and posts on Facebook about how pit bulls aren't bad, it's the owners that are bad. Sorry. I mean to say that they complained about the car their parents bought for their birthday and think school is failing them despite not trying hard enough. Okay, alright, this clearly isn't working, so I'll explain the story itself. The game opens up on the Toa Mata, which are a group of biomechanical friends wearing friendship masks sitting around a stage and watching a play, as friends often do. The play gets attacked by sentient boulders, and the friends have to go on a strange adventure in order to defend their home and defeat Makuta, the ultimate antagonist in Bionicle lore. We go through the 6 Toa Mata, starting with Toa Tahu, before moving on to Toa Kopaka. Toa Tahu has to discover what exactly is going on while defending the volcanic region known as Tawahi. He soon discovers that the Borak have Chrono, which are odd masks that grant these Borak power. Toa Kopaka has to save one of the villagers on the mountain while also taking on one of the Borak's swarm leaders. Without getting into extreme detail about what each Toa end up doing, since it's the same end goal up until we get to the desert land, then we have to take on the Rakshi, which are biomechanical slug creatures made out of essence that are enhanced and then inhabit suits of armor. It's weird, but it's a Bionicle story, so truthfully, it was always going to be fucking weird. But anyway, as the game goes on, the Toa collect the Chrono pieces, forging the Chronfinity Gauntlet at the very end. It seems the ultimate end goal is for Makuta, or Pterodax if you want to use his edgier name, to obtain the final Toa mask, the Mask of Light, which was also created for this game, I believe, but then added to the official canon and become more powerful than anyone could ever hope. But guess what? Oops, all Toa happens, and the young fella, a chronicler by the name of Takua, gets it instead. He becomes the Toa of Light, now called Takanuva, and vanquishes Makuta, sparing the world from eternal darkness, and so on and so forth. Overall, I rate the story a 2 out of 4. It's a pretty simple story, and you know what? It makes sense for how short the game is and the audience it was reaching for. But the lore of Bionicle is so vast now that it just looks like a bit of a rushed job. Is there anything I can really say? I mean, just look at them. I'm not sure if this game has worse graphics than Bratz or not. This game was stylized to look like this, and Bratz looks like Bratz. I will be a bit nitpicky here, just because this is my rating system and I can do whatever I want with it, so your complaint will go in the complaint jar. During the cutscenes, or I can't even really call them cutscenes since they're just very welcome transitions between pieces of mundane gameplay, you know what, I'll call them divine interventions. During the divine interventions, when the Bionicle are talking to one another, their mouths move as though they were human mouths. As in, the pieces of the Lego warp and manipulate instead of the obvious parts of the masks designated specifically to be the mouth opening and closing. So I'll say that it's worse than Bratz just for that point alone. Environments look the best out of almost anything in the game, very unique from one another. They even managed to make the snow level less of a boring snow level and a little bit more unique, though that may be because of the whole snowboarding aspect rather than the environment itself. However, none of the other environments are crazy good enough to even really talk about. The volcano looks like a volcano, and it's the same for most of the other environments. The best environment is probably the jungle. It looks the most beautiful, has a very interesting atmosphere to it, and it blows my mind that biomechanical organisms made out of Lego pieces interact flawlessly with a completely natural and not Lego jungle in order to survive. When I say blows my mind, I don't actually mean it's mind-blowing. It's what we call hyperbole, son. In all fairness, the enemies are visually distinct, except for the wasps and the other thingies. Like, they're both bugs. They're both very obviously bugs. I don't even know what the other thingies are. The only way I know that the wasps are around is because of the ear-piercing buzzing MP3 that spontaneously plays. There are frogs, scorpions, big scorpions, even some weird bold creatures. And Bionicle has always been good at making their character models extremely visually distinct, except the Toamata and Toa Nuva, since they're just the same characters but upgraded. Despite the good character designs, I give the graphics a 1 out of 4. I wish I was looking at a painting made by an eons long dead boomer that thought they discovered pure bliss in the form of someone they themselves created instead of looking at this game. And I hate museums, man. With all that said and done, I suppose we have to rate this mother trucker now. I certainly hope this doesn't feel like a butt cheek on a stick, but the 2003 Bionicle video game plays like a nightmare. Thankfully, this was only 2 hours because I was certainly bound to tear my fingers off one by one if I kept playing it. Don't get me wrong, it was an easy game. I'm not saying it was hard, but you know how the saying goes, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, that was a lie. That doesn't apply here because the destination was the best part and the journey was hurting. And with that, it looks like we're done here. I won't bore you with the long, overextended, lovey-dovey thank you messages, so I thank you very much for watching. And I appreciate the time you spent here with me today. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, or hell, just dislike the video if you want to. I won't be offended. My name was Jack. It always has been. And don't forget,
Just a humble bounty hunter, man.
Stay lucky.